So, Ian called you into the office today because you know that I'm reducing my hours at work and I'll be paying a little bit more attention to the podcast and the site and obviously the non-Euclidean geometry of the Brainwaves HQ. And as such, I will be ranking up as an Ian. I'll be going to a level 2 rank Ian, and there's only so many Ians that the cast can take, so to speak. And it's either you leave or we have a Highlander-style duel on the top of the HQ. So, those are the options.
Are you firing me, Ian? With a baby on the way?
Well, maybe we can still pay you a small amount if you get, maybe do some writing for the site, that kind of thing. We can maybe do something that way. But yeah, I think the cast is just too Ian heavy over the last year. There's been too many Ian and Eon jokes, and I thought it'd be funny at first, but it got a bit long-winded. And
could I have some non-Euclidean geometry to take home?
I mean, you have to be very careful with it. We siphon that off directly from the anomaly, so it's very volatile. So you have to be careful what you do with it.
Hey, I think I'll be fine. I'm just going to go down and...
Do not expose your pregnant wife to it. It's a very, very bad idea.
It's all fine. I'm just gonna pick up the anomaly briefly and take a little home as a wee souvenir of the cast.
Well, look, I'll go and get that prepared. Why don't you introduce the fine people? And by the way, I'm Ian McAllister.
I'm Iain Chantler.
And I'm Jamie Adams, who was surprisingly absent from that little tete-a-tete. And this is for Iain Chantler to say.
This is Brainwaves episode 70, bringing you the best in board game and tabletop gaming news. These are the headlines for the week of the 5th of April, 2021. Candlekeep flame splutters. Netrunner jacks into a new era, and Pokemon craze leads to larceny. All this and more on this, my final episode of Brainwaves.
Yes, of course. Wizards of the Coast, one of our favourite subjects on the show, have recently announced and released a book called Candlekeep Mysteries, an anthology of adventures that are set in the Forgotten Realms, the sort of base setting for Dungeons and Dragons. Amongst the entries in the book was an adventure from Graham Barber, who related his experience of reading the final product on March the 21st, 2021 on his Twitter account. He had been hired to create a one-shot detailing the conflict between two factions of the... Help me out here, Jamie.
Yuan Ti.
Thank you. A serpentine race also involving the Gripply, a race of frog-like humanoids. Barber said on the site, the idea was that the good Yuan Ti were working to hasten the awakening of the world serpent, the mother goddess of the serpent folk, by recovering an ancient tome from the crypt in the old temple from the story in the book. The evil Yuan Ti want to stop them, the Gripply are caught in the crossfire. Barber had been very happy with Wizards of the Coast up to this point and said the process of pitching, playtesting and writing went very smoothly. On publication of the adventure, though, Barber noticed that some substantial changes had been made. Barber says, the Yuan Ti were reduced down to just being evil for evil's sake, the Gripply had their culture stripped out, and so on. Colonialist language and imagery around the Gripply was inserted as well, moving them from being simple and utilitarian with obvious culture and technology to being primitives who primitively decorate their thatched huts with crab bits. Although Barber admits that Wizards of the Coast has no contractual obligation to inform him of any changes, he said that the worst part of the situation was that he'd given interviews talking about what you can do in the adventure, and some of that turned out to be false due to the changes. These interviews had been coordinated by Wizards of the Coast on his behalf. He also had let Wizards know that he could be contacted at any time for edit requests. Barber has respectfully requested that his name be omitted from future printings, as the adventure has been changed so dramatically from his original vision. So, technically Wizards have done nothing wrong here. Contractually they were not obliged to inform Barber of the changes, but it seems like an odd move to have arranged interviews for him, presumably vetted what was said in those interviews and actually sort of listened to them at some point, and then to have changed the adventure so dramatically that effectively he wasn't telling the truth. Seems like a bit of an odd take from Wizards. What do you gents think?
On a higher level, this is yet another Wizards make a screw up that they should not be making as the premier tabletop industry company. You just shouldn't. You're a massive multi-million-dollar company. There's no way these simple mistakes should be being made. And it's systemic. It happens every week.
Yeah, there's an argument there. I mean, I'd argue that the bigger a company, the more likely these kind of mistakes are to be made because there's less consultation. Like within a small company, there's a bit more connection to the product, to what they're putting out, and maybe there's a little bit more connection to the writers that are involved that you're employing to like write these individual, because like Candlekeep has a good bunch of adventures in there, so basically these people are being employed to do this. It's being edited and stuck in the book, whereas in a smaller company you'd have a much more direct connection. But yeah, you're right, they've been consistent in continuing to make these kind of mistakes.
Yeah, I was more meaning on a systemic level. This is just a mistake that a company that is like, yes, they are a board game company and our industry is remarkably immature most of the time, but they're also a publicly traded huge company.
Fair.
So, like, standard PR mistakes of one of our writers has gone out and said that he's taking his name off the product. That should not be a thing that Wizards of the Coast finds out through Twitter. It's just amateur.
As you said, they may have been within their rights to do it, which is absolutely fine. But I think it was probably worth letting the author know that such changes were being made. Was there a status quo for the races within the Forgotten Realms that they wanted to uphold? Perhaps. Maybe they should have mentioned that first. Again, that's just a theory. Also, if you did hear the sound of a can opening, other carbonated drinks are available.
They will not hear that sound because I'm a good editor. Disappear forever.
I continually forget that muting Discord does not mute my recording, which is...
I've always meant to set up a mute button for this microphone so I can do that kind of thing, and I have never actually done it. But all the stuff disappears into the cast anyway.
Annoyingly, the new microphone I've got, and it's a good microphone, and I really like it, but it doesn't have what my old microphone used to have, which was a mute button.
Yeah, mine's got a mute button right here, but you have to like hold and press and hold it for a bit.
Yeah,
so this kind of
nice.
Yeah. Anyway, this is all going in the extras.
I found a good way of making sure the stuff I don't want to say gets edited out is just to repeatedly hit the microphone.
Oh, nice.
While I'm talking.
Swearing violently as well.
I can get rid of the individual swears as well.
The individual swears.
Individual.
That's
a challenge, isn't it, Jamie?
Challenging me, McAllister.
Yeah. 2 people living in Glasgow. How many swears can we fit in the next 40 minutes?
I mean, again, Glaswegian, so every other word.
Anyway, Mr. Chantler, let's jack in and hack out.
In the dim and distant past of July last year, Ian and Ian interviewed Serenity and June, community manager and design lead respectively for Project Nisei, a fan continuation of the much-loved Netrunner card game. During that interview, they told us about some new starter decks and simplified formats that were coming to the game, and we are delighted to say that they are here. System Gateway is a new starter set featuring 2 decks that can teach you the basics of the game, alongside some features on the Project Nisei homepage. This has been released alongside a startup format for the game, which effectively only includes the new cards that Nisei have worked on in the card pool, making things really straightforward for the new player. We honestly don't normally cover new releases on the cast, but we are so excited for this that, well, Ian wanted to highlight it, and as did I. Nisei have been doing incredible work in making the game more approachable, easy to teach, and all of us look forward to playing a whole bunch of Netrunner in the near future.
Yeah.
Ian is hoping to do some teaching soon.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I used to do a lot of teaching in local sort of Netrunner beginners groups and things like that. I had a Netrunner beginners league that taught the sort of like the sort of 1-1-1 format where you had a very limited card pool. So I'm looking forward to this, and if you want to learn the game, you can go use jinteki.net, which is an online implementation of Netrunner that's still running. It's very good, and also when you create an account on there, you'll find that the System Gateway starter decks are already part of your decks that you can make in that system. So they're just there waiting for you to go, and there's a couple of articles on the site that can take you through how to play the different sides of the game. They've done some incredible work. I'm really looking forward to actually digging into that card pool. I was showing the gents before we started that I've started making my first deck in about 5 years for Netrunner, and I've totally forgotten how, but that's totally fine. That's part of the joy of it, is making some decks and failing horribly to actually make anything coherent. And yeah, they've done some really good work. They clarified a lot of language, made it easier to get into. Yeah, I'm so impressed by Project Nisse. I'd love to have them back on some point to chat more about what their plans are.
I might see about learning how it goes.
I'm sorry, might. I don't understand.
Yeah, well, get used to it. Suddenly it's back to 50-50. You like LCGs and CCGs? I am, let's say, lukewarm on them.
I will change your mind. It's my aim for I might say my aim for 2021.
Just to clarify, the System Gateway product is a product you can buy on Make Playing cards and Drive-Thru cards, and it's 2 beginner decks for Netrunner that have cards specifically designed to make it easy to play, but still great fun. It's what Netrunner has needed for a very long time. Go buy it.
Yeah. And they've done some excellent work on the terminology and the cards, much better than Fantasy Flight ever did.
Yeah, this is Netrunner 2.0. 3.0.
Pretty much.
Netrunner X 0.0.
Anyway, Jamie, talking about trading card games, the latest Pokemon craze has led to some interesting goings-on in Tokyo.
I mean, I wouldn't have called Netrunner a trading card game, but I don't know much about it, so shows how much I know. Anyway, yes, we all know that tabletop games and card games and board games are a big business, lots of money in it, but this is maybe a little bit on the other side. In Tokyo, a 28-year-old man has been arrested for alleged trespassing and burglary of 1 million yen's worth of trading cards. Kensuke Nakanishi broke into the trading card shop on the top floor of a 6-story building in Tokyo's Higashi Ikebukuro neighborhood. He didn't, however, use the door. He allegedly fastened a rope to a railing on the roof of the building, climbed down 5 meters, remember that's the top of a 6-story building, and used what is described as a tool to smash a window. He also had no safety line while climbing down, by the way. Once inside, he took about 80 Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh cards valued at around 1 million yen, which is around 9,000 American dollars, and also 260,000 yen, about 2,400 American dollars in cash. He was caught on CCTV footage near the shop, was suspected, and subsequently arrested. He reportedly admitted it all, saying, "I did it to pay off a debt," and "I was in the rock climbing club in high school, so I wasn't afraid of heights."
Well, as long as he wasn't afraid, that's okay. Quite extraordinary. Just
the most high-stakes board game crime ever.
Oh,
scaling
no,
down
I don't
a
know
building
about that.
to break in.
It's up there, though. It's up there.
It's up there. I'm fairly certain there have been murders over Magic the Gathering cards. I don't know if we've ever covered it on this cast, because I think it was before this cast existed.
Mr. McAllister's suppositions do not necessarily reflect those idea of brainwaves and the giant brain as a whole. We cannot substantiate this as of this time.
I'm pretty sure there have certainly been robberies in the States, and I'm pretty sure there was one murder over Magic the Gathering collections.
Forget about Magic. Yeah.
Either way, it's still
pretty amazing.
It's a great story. It's a great story. And to be fair, 80 cards, you slip that into your pocket, although if they're pristine, maybe you don't want to slip that into a pocket.
Well, they're probably in the little plastic holder things, right, for the pristine cards.
Yeah, but still, you don't want them rubbing against it and maybe devaluing it. I mean, that's going to go from like a was it Prime Mint Gem 10 to like a Prime Mint Gem 9?
No, they'll be in like little hard plastic protectors. That
okay.
Yeah.
What I am deeply upset about is he wasn't a content creator, because he could have got like 150 TikTok videos out of this heist.
Yeah.
But then don't do the modern thing. Don't like live stream your robbery.
I mean, it would make you a lot more money than stealing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure people have been arrested because they've live streamed their robbery and things like that.
Anyway, let's move away from modern social media and live streaming crimes and felonies going on. I don't want to call them felonies. Anyway, on to the news.
Speaking of social media, last month in episode 68, we reported that Luke Crane, then Vice President and Community Head at Kickstarter, was crowdfunding a project called The Perfect RPG. a tabletop RPG collection which featured work from Adam Koebel. Koebel was an RPG designer and ex-host of a Twitch play series which featured an in-game sexual assault, which we had reported on in previous casts. It appears that the full list of participants had not been shared with other contributors at the time, and this caused several of them to back out publicly, and the project was finally cancelled, with the full list removed, with the explanation being redacted to reduce future harassment. Crane came out with a public statement on March 26th in which he said, "I wish to unequivocally apologise to you and everyone affected for the harm I've done to the community with this project. Regarding the decision to publish a list of contributors in reverse alphabetical order by first name, which put Adam Koebel's name at the bottom, he said, I was seeking to highlight the first creator on this list, who is my primary playtester for this project. In hindsight, this was a poor idea that came off as duplicitous, for which I apologise." Kickstarter has also issued a statement regarding this, saying that Crane would be leaving Kickstarter after a mutual decision, and although he was overall head of community, he had no direct dealings with the games part for a while. That is true. A different person is in charge of games at Kickstarter at the moment. My personal reading of that is mutual decision is, a nice way of saying he was pushed before he was fired. And the list of contributors in reverse alphabetical order excuse is just doesn't ring true to me at all. He knew what he was doing on that. I'm sorry. If that is the pure, as you said, the pure intention, I think there are probably other ways at which that could have been done. That is my I'm trying to keep that kind of not neutral, non-judgmental ground. I'm like, there are better ways you could have done that. That's all I'm going to say. There are different ways to read that. I'll agree. But yeah, and like you say, Jamie, there are different ways to have done that. Absolutely. But yeah, it looks like that story has come to an end. Anyway, Ian, Wizards in yet more controversy over art.
Yes, this is our weekly Wizards of the Coast. Wait, sorry, am I repeating us? We've already done the weekly Wizards of the Coast. Sorry, no. I forgot to stack all this together, sorry. Yeah, it's 2 weekly rather than bi-weekly now. Gotcha. Thanks. Bi-weekly, of course. Yeah, 2 per week. Yeah, 2 per week, that's what that means, right? Yeah. Yep. Wizards of the Coast has cut ties with an artist that was accused of plagiarizing art for one of the recent cards in Magic the Gathering upcoming set, Strixhaven, School of Mages, aka Harry Potter. Scurrilous lies. Crux of Fate was part of the upcoming Mystical Archive set and depicts 2 dragons, Ugin and Nicol Bolas, prepared and engaged in battle. The art for it was created by Jason Felix. Shortly after the reveal of the card, Kit Lapina posted on Twitter that the card bore a startling resemblance to her fan art of Nicol Bolas she created in 2016. And indeed, the video they put up showed that it was quite clearly a tracing. Wizards of the Coast released a statement on the 30th of March saying, "These actions do not reflect the values of Wizards, and as a result, we will be suspending future work with Jason Felix until we have been able to bring this matter to a successful conclusion." And that's it for Wizards of the Coast in Hot Water number 2. Indeed. I mean, at least they've done something about that one. They've reacted, they've cut ties with the artist until they can figure out what's happened there. I mean, looking at the piece of art side by side, and we'll put links to the articles that mention this in the show notes. This is from Dicebreaker. There's some pretty obvious similarities. Yeah. The only lacking similarity, which the artist points out, is where the DeviantArt logo was. Not even kidding. Also, this in with some late-breaking Magic the Gathering Wizards of the Coast news. Again, about Strixhaven School of Mages. It seems that pre-release cards will not be available for pre-release in America and several other countries around the world. Reasons for this are unclear. Some suppositions include the Ever Given getting stuck sideways in the Suez Canal. Other being the winter storms in Texas, which devastated the infrastructure of the country, as the company responsible for handling Magic the Gathering's English language printing is based in Dallas. Speaking of card games, Jamie, we go to a far superior, far more strategic, and far better all-round card game. I mean, there can be only one, can't there? You're trying to get us complaints before you leave. There can be only Uno. There can be only Uno. This is a very... I'd have to say, I think this is quite a heavy
card game based podcast today because we started with role playing game, but then we had Netrunner, Pokemon, and we've talked about Magic the Gathering, and now we're on to Uno.
You just need to get aboard the card game train, Jamie. That's what you need.
Yeah. So we talked previously on the cast of 2021, at least, that this year is the 50th anniversary of Uno, and we've seen some celebration stories crop up, like the Uno World Championships that Mattel announced. But today, we've got a blinder for you. Mattel in Australia is running a competition to win a 22-carat gold Uno card holder, handmade by an Australian master goldsmith, which apparently takes around 80 hours to make. It has a 99.99% purity level, comes with a red velvet-lined custom case, and is valued at around 3,500 Australian dollars. Now, of course, this is only available in Australia, so hopefuls will have to have bought an Uno deck from the 1st of March until around the beginning of April, about now. They will have to have logged onto the website and given the best answer to the question, what's the wildest Uno move you've ever made in 25 words or less? I mean, I'm struggling to think of an answer there, to be honest. But I'll come back to that.
Through the whole Uno deck at your opponent's head to knock them out.
That's not a legal move, and I don't know what Uno games you've been playing.
It didn't say legal move, it said wildest move. I'll have you read.
Broke into a store in Tokyo to steal rare Uno cards.
The winner is to be announced on the 5th of April, the day this podcast is released. But it's usually this one. But usually this podcast is released in the morning, UTC, so evening Australian time, in which case the winner will be notified. So, listener in Australia, if you ever listen to this and you won, congratulations.
Let us know.
Yeah. Mattel has also said there will be more celebrations planned. Now, I love Uno. I think it's another game that I think gets some derision because it is... I don't know, I think it's, dare I say it, one of the more mainstream games, and that has afforded it some level of, it's really simple, don't worry about it. But I play it with children at work as young as like 6 or 7. I've had evenings where my partner, myself, and a family friend had several adult beverages and played Uno multiple hands, which got louder, more raucous, and swearier the more the adult beverages were. Is it adult or adult? I think it's adult beverages, because adult beverages is naughty.
So we wanted to take a little moment to reflect on the last 3 years of this podcast. We've been going for 3 years, which who on earth knew that would happen? We actually launched on the 1st of April.
I don't remember that.
I kid you not. I'd forgotten until I looked back at podcast number 1. We launched on 1st of April 2018. Yes, 2018.
It's a very long-running April Fool's joke.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone takes us seriously now, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should have seen that coming.
We've been running for 3 years, reporting on the news of the industry. I think we're one of the only podcasts really that does this kind of level of stuff. We're actually looking into the news of the industry, not really concentrating on new release, and actually talking about some of the difficult stuff in the industry. And we want to take a moment to look back at that, so we'll reflect on what the future of the cast is. Obviously, Iain is leaving the cast now. Mr. Chantler is going to be stepping down as a co-host. And we're extremely sad to see him go. He's been excellent over the last year or so since he's joined the cast.
Thank you both for having me. It's been genuinely lovely.
Yeah, it's been great.
It's been amazing, and thank you for initially coming in to be a better me. And you're a much better me than I ever could be.
Yeah, you should be wearing the hats.
Yeah. I'm very confused.
No, it was because when I was going away on tour, I approached you to take over my job.
Of course.
And then when lockdown hit, you were just like, should it just be the 3 of us? Yeah, it works so far. But you're a much better me than I ever could be. So thank you.
I was about to say I've done every single cast, but I actually haven't. That's
you
not
liar,
true.
you have not.
No,
really?
there was one I was not on. Yeah, Sam and Jamie covered at one point. One cast when I can do it. Which is why it's a 300 cast. Well, it's one of the reasons there is that I wanted a 300 cast in the first place, is that It means that one person can miss out, and there's still banter and chat between the hosts. That's all good. I'm going to be reducing my hours at work over the course of this year, which will give me a bit more time to actually spend on the cast and the site. So hopefully that will lead to some new things. I've got some sort of ideas bubbling away in the back of my brain. I still want to spin off Brainstorm into a separate cast at some point, a sort of panorama news night sort of discussion kind of show kind of thing. I haven't quite decided what that looks like yet and when I'll do it, but yeah, I would like to do that. Maybe a couple of those sometime this year. And we'll still be doing some specials. Got some ideas for those over the course of the year. Well, I'm pretty happy with the format as it is. It's changed a bit over the years. Like, it used to be a little bit more wacky. It's become a little bit more straight-laced in the last sort of year or so, I guess. But that's kind of reflected the nature of the stuff we've been reporting on.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, as I said, we initially started off doing some sketches, and I'm not going to claim to be John Cleese or Graham Chapman, but writing sketches, the sketches are good. I think also with the lack of playing games, and the last year has been, let's say, somewhat tumultuous in the board game world.
Yeah.
I was about to say specifically online, but that's where predominantly most of the board game world is right now. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's been a year of reflection for the board game industry, I think. There's been a lot of sort of companies looking inward and people taking stock of various sort of political situations and social situations in the hobby and kind of taking time to look at those and going, well, this isn't right. Can we change things for the better? And that has led to a lot of, turmoil in the industry a bit. The companies running into trouble for not addressing concerns of the sort of the board game community. And yeah, we've reported on a lot of that stuff, and some of the casts over the last year have been quite difficult to put together. We've reported on controversies with people like Phil Eklund and Daniel Tashini, and problems at Kickstarter and Cards Against Humanity and
Wizards of the Coast.
I can't remember big controversies with Fantasy Flight Games, other than some of their sort of changing of how they're doing stuff and that kind of thing, but no actual awful things going on inside their infrastructure. Yeah, it's been quite a tough year for board game news, I think.
Looking forward, I don't know. I think the cast is still going to change.
Oh yeah,
it's an ever-growing thing, and what it is now is the state that we find ourselves in, and the kind of trying to reflect slightly what the industry is in. But that will change, depending on what happens. And do we know exactly what it's going to be? No. So the future is wide open, and I guess if I may be a bit on the downer for a minute. We'll keep doing this as long as we enjoy doing it. Yeah.
We take stock of it every year when the anniversary comes around and have a think about do we want to continue? And as long as we're happy doing it, none of us are getting paid to do this. We make some money off the Patreon, and that's paid for some equipment and that kind of thing. It'd be lovely. I don't have any real desire to turn professional, though I'd love to do some paid writing. That'd be amazing at some point. But yeah, the cast is never going to make big bucks because that's just the nature of podcasting unless we go down paid advertising and that kind of thing route, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to sponsor the site through advertising or anything of that ilk. Let's turn to Mr. Chantler, who's leaving the cast. What have your thoughts been over the last year of being on the cast?
And you can be as brutal as you like.
Now you've said
No. I'll be honest, right? You're leaving. Honest, fair assessment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, it's been great fun. I think this is possibly the most niche cast I could imagine. When I describe it to friends, I've been okay, you've got a few minutes of improv comedy followed by 40 minutes of usually really bad news about the board game industry. And my friends are board games are maybe a tertiary hobby. And then they're am I really that interested in the financial comings and goings of a company who makes a game I've not even bought?
Oh yeah, we're a niche of a niche.
So yeah, basically
of a niche.
That I think that's my favorite thing about this cast, that it's it is just people doing what they enjoy, and that's that. There is no aspiration to, hey, we're going to become this commercial giant who's going to take...
Who wants to do that?
Adverts and all that kind
Fair
of stuff.
play to you if you've done it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have I told you about Raid Shadow Legends?
Yeah, it's like one of the reasons I started the cast is like I could see a niche, I could see a gap that was like no one was really talking about the actual news of the hobby, and that's why I sort of reached out to Jimmy and Sam in the first place and said, like, do you want to do this thing with me?
Because Sam and I did it, and we were just messing about. But that's where the Monopoly news came from.
Yeah,
as I've maybe said before. It seemed that every time we did it, we had Monopoly news, and we just carried it over, and it started as a joke, and Ian get annoyed with it, but it's here to stay, baby.
Absolutely, it's awesome. Anyway, we reached out on our social medias on Twitter and Discord and our Facebook for some questions for the cast and ourselves. So first up is a question from Oliver of Tabletop Games blog. What is our favourite episode?
Ian, you said you had a very specific answer to this.
Yeah.
Yes. I don't know the exact cast, but it's the last one I listened to, which was, I think, like maybe a month before I joined the cast. Because the second I joined the cast, you guys lost a permanent listener. And I can say now that I have not enough time to be on this cast, you're about to regain a listener. So basically, good work on your analytics.
Swings and roundabouts, isn't it?
Woo!
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I use board game terminology. Snakes and ladders, isn't it?
Snakes and ladders, yep.
Yeah,
Nice.
Only board game analogies are allowed on this cast. I think my favourite episode is probably one we did together, Ian, on Project Nisei. I really, really enjoyed talking to those folks. It was a really interesting special.
Yeah.
Oh, fine then.
Yeah, hearing June and Serenity talk about the realities of being a community manager for a volunteer organization that has effectively no cash but a huge amount of responsibility, and then June talking about all the cool design possibility of Netrunner for the next few years. Like,
yeah, I could have talked to June for ages and ages about design.
Yeah.
Of like that kind of card game, because I love that kind of stuff.
yeah,
Absolutely fascinating. I love that episode. It's still one of our most popular casts. I'm pretty sure it's in our top 10 of all time. That particular special. And yeah, and they were very good about sharing it. So thank you, Project Nisei, for actually sharing the thing that we did with you. Yay.
we love you. We're going to be on Jinteki very soon.
Oh yes, I remember my sign-in and everything.
Nice.
Don't know if I have a favorite episode. I know it's a cop out.
Is it not this one, Jamie? How can
I mean,
every
listen,
cat?
I mean, we're losing Ian. It's got to be your favorite episode, right? You hate him.
Wait, that would be next week. That is Jamie's favorite cast.
Oh, thank God he's gone.
Which is why he's dissembling at the moment.
I know it's assembly. It's a cop out. I don't have a favorite episode because I'll be honest, some of the news sticks in the head. Usually stuff that comes up again and again. But a lot of the stuff I'm like, right, we've done it. Great, let's move on. If it comes back, great. If it doesn't, fine. But it's just a new and different challenge each week. I'd say my favorite episodes are, it's a bit of a cop out, but ones that aren't ridiculously heavy.
Yeah. Ones where it can be a bit lighter, it's nice.
Although that's interesting in a very different way, because yes, although I was about to say we answer to no one, it is still in my head going, and Ian usually edits it out, it's me usually going, can we change how we say that a little bit? This is how it comes through in my head, and the potential context in which we're saying it and how it could come across. And that's not saying it's something I enjoy. I just think it's an interesting challenge to figure out.
That's fair. There's a puzzle to solve there every week when we're handling hard news. We always have like a chat about it, and sometimes those chats happen mid-cast if we just like change our minds about how to approach something. A lot of that stuff gets lost in editing, obviously, because you folks don't really want to hear that. Some of that goes into the extended, but for the most part, a lot of that chat gets edited out because it's not particularly interesting. It's interesting to us, but it's not actually worthy of like paying out as broadcast material. And there's always like something to talk about there.
Your answer there made me realize what 3 years of podcasting, or rather 1 year for myself, has taught us, which is the broader view of looking at the news, where what you were saying was it sticks in your head. It was when we did story after story on the value of Pokemon cards going up, and then it was like we're probably not going to say it on cast, but this was looking at behind the scenes and going, yeah, this isn't a random happenstance that is making these cards go up. This is a concerted effort by a series of purchasers. Whereas if you do the news 1 week at a time, then you go, yep, Pokemon cards are selling really well this week. Whereas looking at it across months, you go, okay, there is a genuine story here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that was an interesting one, that. Anyway, so more questions. So Hal from the Discord, who we've played a few games with on the Giant Brain Discord as well, asks, what story we've covered do we think we are likely to still be hearing about by the time of the 4th anniversary in 2022? So this time next year.
COVID-19, Frosthaven, Games Expos potentially being pushed back because still people aren't being vaccinated, despite there being a huge rollout.
Pokemon card value manipulation.
Pokemon card manipulation. More stuff from Kickstarter, more stuff from Wizards of the Coast. I have a feeling that there's a reason these stories keep coming around again. And
Asmodee internal workings and what is going on at FFG. Is FFG going to be a shell? Or will this time next year, will I be listening to...
It already is.
Will I be listening to the cast and you two will be saying, hey, there's this cool new game coming out from FFG that is a genre they've never done, and it's a new IP.
I was going to ask if they'd done a roll and write before, but...
Nope.
Not yet.
Oh, jeez, that's a bad sign.
No miniatures on a roll and write.
Not yet.
Ian, roll and write.
You don't have the vision for the miniatures-based roll and write.
You roll the miniatures.
You have to write them out and then origami them together.
Just a wee thing, just what has 3 years of podcasting taught us? Something that I still struggle with every day, every time we do it, which is trying to sound... I am reading off a script, but trying to make it sound like I'm not reading off a script. Trying to stop waffling, because I still waffle incredibly badly. If I don't know, not just going, because vocal fry is very bad for the voice, and
I have to edit it out.
Yep.
I thought after 1 year I had finally learned to stop reading the headlines, and then I said Netrunner opens the gates tonight, and that's me right back where I began. So what have I learned? Nothing. Nothing, dear listener. That's what I've learned.
It was Candlejack, wasn't it?
Oh. Yeah.
I mean, I think we all make 2 or 3 mistakes a cast. That's just inevitable.
Amateurs.
Hal also asks, what room we'd almost like to add to Hal also asks, what room would we almost like to add to the HQ?
Sauna. For no other reason than... I actually, no, let me change that. Little bar.
Was the bar and kitchen already? That exists.
Yeah, but that's...
It's in the canteen.
Okay, let me
You
change
want like a
my
little
answer.
bespoke bar kind of thing.
A little bespoke bar, yeah.
Yeah, like a smoking room.
No, because we've got RPG corner. No, actually, I know what we need installed. A toilet.
Are the buckets not good enough?
I'm having words with my union rep about that.
Jamie here aiming for the stars.
You have a union?
And the scar.
Shoot for the stars, you'll end up in the gutter. And that is better than the Brainwaves toilet.
I'm going to be adding a lecture hall soon. I'm literally going to be adding that because there's a new feature on Discord that allows us to do that. So we're going to be adding a lecture hall. Maybe invite some people to come and give lectures.
Ian, with you leaving, is there anything you would like to add retroactively or would like to have seen?
We should add an Iain Chantler games room.
Yeah.
in honor of his leaving.
Exclusively Netrunner. And exclusively in me not playing it due to having no time.
It's only accessible by you, and you have to play Netrunner on your own.
Yeah.
Aww.
I would like the telescope room. Not an astronomy room,
I love that.
but a telescope room where we store the telescopes.
Okay, I like that.
Just a room full of telescopes.
Yes, because adults who...
I like the idea.
Adults who are into astronomy just collect telescopes. It's like board games. You collect... The hobby is collecting.
Sorry, I realise I'm going back and forth of things that I've learned over 3 years because that's just keep going in. And Ian, if you edit it all together, that's fine. If you don't, that's also fine. Board game jargon, like industry board game jargon. Like the fact is, on our Google document that we use for every podcast. At the very top, we've got beware. I had to write beware board game jargon. For example, keep using the words wizards, WotC, FFG. If this is the first podcast that someone has listened to and they pick it up and say they've never listened to, they don't know anything about board games, but they want to get into that and they want to know about the news, picking up and hearing this news from Asmodee, Wizards, WotC, it's like, videos that I made before about talking about, analysis paralysis and king making and take that. And it's like, what do all these words mean? Admittedly, they're all gaming terms, but
yeah, we do our best to try and keep that as simple as possible. Yeah.
Just making sure that if there is jargon, it is explained first.
Yeah. Try and listen to it with new ears and like say what things mean. Yeah.
Because, in its own small way, if we just surround ourselves with jargon, it could be argued it's a form of gatekeeping, because if you don't understand the jargon, what use are you going to be in this gaming circle? Which is nonsense. It's nonsense. It's Boulder Dash, I say.
One more question before we move on from Simon on the Discord. Similar to what Hal asked, but basically he's asking what story we'll be covering in a year's time, which we've kind of asked, and on the 10th anniversary, which would be 2028.
Wizards of the Coast in hot water.
Asmodee now owns all of board gaming.
Asmodee is branched
except
out into
GMT.
planets.
Except GMT, because they don't want it.
No, GMT's got a strong.
Oh no, I think they've got.
presence.
I think GMT are great and produce some excellent games. I just don't think Asmodee wants anything to do with them.
Don't criticize our future owners, Ian.
Yeah,
Asmodee are great.
Oh,
we are purchasable.
Tenebrew might have finally come out in 10 years' time. The Simon digital platform thing they talked about 2 years ago.
Oh, Teberu, yes.
Teberu, that was what it's called. That might have finally arrived.
In my final...
So again, that's a deep dive. That is something we covered, I'm going to say, in the middle of 2019.
Yeah, I think that's right.
We talked about it at, I think the first time I properly met you, Ian, at Tabletop Scotland, because we were talking about it, and it was Cool Mini or Not, the company, had released, they were announcing Teberu, which was a digital board game table which could interact with games like Zombicide, and it has been a year and a half. Admittedly, this is technology, so it takes a lot longer to develop.
And there haven't been any conventions as well, so they haven't been able to show anything off.
I'm sure there was other things. Stay to the board game. Okay, interesting. Go a bit serious for a second. So the board game renaissance, let's call this era that we've been living in, Yep. Some people say it begins around 1995 when Settlers of Catan was released. Some might say early mid-2000s when Days of Wonder, like Ticket to Ride, kicked everything off. Again, so let's say we've had about 20 to 25 years. Or, sorry, about 15 to 25 years, so give or take a few years. Do we think this continued board game renaissance is going to continue for, say, another 10 years? Do we think the bubble is going to burst eventually?
I think we'll probably have, over that time, so we're talking 2028.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we'll have seen a bit of a dip and then a rise again, maybe. But then again, I think one of the reasons given for the sort of board game renaissance is our sort of disconnected society over sort of digital platforms, that kind of thing, and board games provide that getting people around a table, face-to-face gaming kind of experience, just that sort of social experience. So maybe as digital stuff continues to occupy our lives and take our attention, board gaming will just continue to become more and more mainstream. Maybe we'll see more games in bigger stores and supermarkets, things like that. We'll see more games going to the mainstream. I remember Eric Lang was tweeting the other day, who's a big sort of thematic board game designer, big things like Rising Sun, Blood Rage. He was tweeting about making more sort of family-orientated, more mainstream stuff. So I think we'll see more of that. I think we'll see more of the sort of what we think of as the hobbyist companies, like Cool Mini or Not, for instance, starting to try and get a bit of that more mainstream market. I think we're going to see much more of that over the next 2-3 years, because they know it's there now. Over the pandemic, there's been a lot of board game sales for board game companies have done extremely well. Board game shops, not so much. That's a different conversation. But board game companies have done pretty well. So there's obviously a demand there, and I can see more hobbyist companies becoming more mainstream. over time, because they're going to want to seek out new revenue streams, and they're going to diversify.
Yep.
I think that kind of thing's inevitable.
Additionally, yeah, I think Hasbro also will be looking at, like, if they've not had the boardroom conversation of how do we turn our casual Monopoly customers into purchasers of our large back catalogue, then I would be very surprised. So
yeah, that's a fair point. Yeah, they're trying to convert people the other way from like that more sort of family, sort of traditional game, I guess you might want to call it, into sort of more hobbyist gamers. Yeah. We'd love to thank everyone who's listened to the cast over the last 3 years and been along with us on this journey. Thank you so much for your time and listening to us, reading the articles on the site. It's all very, very much appreciated. And we'd like especially to thank our patrons who throw us a few coppers here and there and allow us to keep the cast going. Especially to our new patron, William Nichols. Thank you so much for joining us recently. And our executive producer, Shaun Newan from the Game-a-lot team. We'll put links to his site in the show notes. And we are also delighted to announce that we'll be joining the Tabletop Games Blog Radio. Oliver Kinna of Tabletop Games Blog, he's launching a new internet radio station that's going to be available 24/7, made up of a bunch of different casts, including his own. And we will be on that eventually. Maybe not in the first week or so. I've been talking to Oliver behind the scenes about that. So in the first couple of weeks or so, you'll hear some of the Brainwaves podcast on there, and it'll just be our most recent cast will go on there if and when it appears. And also you can hear like sort of We're Not Wizards, Naylor Games have got their new podcasts on there, and all of Tabletop Games Blog and Tabletop Inquisition's podcasts will be on there as well, along with some music and other articles, and maybe some live stuff as well, I believe is planned down the line. Interesting format, and we're really looking forward to being a part of that.
And news is a big part of radio.
Absolutely. We're going to be the news part of that radio station. Anyway, it's about time we got out of here. But first, before we go, Jamie, it's all go at Monopoly.
Well, yes. Now, I think it's very easy to say. Board games may do more harm than good to the planet. Gallons of plastic, forests of cardboard and paper, and many mines of metal go into our games every year. To say nothing of the ecological shipping costs. Suez. Sorry, bad reflex cough. In fact, I think we may have somebody who is actually leaving the podcast who might actually have something like a focus on sustainability in games. Isn't that right, Ian?
Sustainability in games. Wow. How fortunate of you, and what serendipity that you mentioned the name of my little project to make games more sustainable.
Seamless. If you're a company listening to this and would like to think about the sustainability in your games, speak to Ian, because Ian is great. And I'm not just saying that because he's on the podcast.
Also,
he's great.
I am quite slow to reply to emails at the moment, as my wife is 6 months pregnant and I started a new job. So apologies for that.
But he will get back to you. So, this is the outro. So where's the Monopoly news? You're talking about ecology. Anyway, right. So, thank you to Oliver of Tabletop Games Blog for slinging this my way. We have Hasbro releasing Monopoly Go Green Edition. Now, the package, game board, game guide, money, cards, storage bag, insert, and money tray are made from 100% recycled paper. And the greenhouses, remember this is ecologically focused Monopoly, and dice are made from FSC certified wood from well-managed forests. Tokens are made with a plant-based plastic derived from sugarcane, a renewable raw material.
Just to interject, FSC certification is genuinely the gold standard for wood. So cardboard, paper, recyclable stuff that's FSC certified, that's the gold standard. This is genuinely good. Good work.
This is fantastic, yeah. The back of the box does have build wooden greenhouses and play with wooden dice as one of its big interest points. Interesting that they're bringing that up, in particular. With this version of Monopoly, renewable energy is the focus, with a solar field and a wind farm taking the part of the facilities, and cycle paths replacing train stations. Now, there are no hotels in the game, just greenhouses. Now, rent with a greenhouse is double the normal rent, which is now just the price of the property, so it's more expensive. Now, for Hasbro, of all companies to make this, to push this out, it's actually quite a nice surprise. Really, although I always want to have Monopoly news, this is both good because it's monopoly news, and it's really good ecological news. But, big but, I worry this is I worry it's a token gimmick version, like we had hipster monopoly and socialism and monopoly. And yeah, the ones that we've talked about before and variously complained, ranted, screamed about. If Hasbro can hopefully start to bleed some of these practices into the regular monopoly, I don't know the cost of making it. This isn't my thing, but if they can, we might be going someplace and could be the start of a shift in production. If you get monopoly behind you, then
yeah.
What makes this possibly my favourite ever Monopoly news is that it is genuinely not easy to get FSC certified materials in dice and card and cardboard and paper. Not all manufacturers have those options. So Hasbro throwing their weight around and saying, hey, we want one of these available at least in all of these options is giant. And I suspect it's an outcome of Hasbro becoming a larger company and saying, we're a huge publicly traded company with sustainability concerns as part of being that. So we've got to do this kind of thing. But it's fantastic. On an industry level, if Hasbro does it, everybody can follow because all games are made in the same place, China.
Well, you'll have to come back on and be our special reporter on sustainability for the cast then.
I would love to.
Yeah.
Excellent.
How do you feel about an extended sabbatical with occasional roving reporter responsibilities?
I would love that. I believe I'm allotted some spare time in 18 years and 3 months, which sounds pretty good.
I negotiated that for you. Hey, see? Not just a pretty face, and not even that, because I have a face for radio, as my mother told me.
And that's why we do a podcast and not a YouTube channel.
Also, a radio for a face.
It's true. It's disturbing. Anyway, Iain, thank you so much for being a co-host for the last year. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on.
Thank you so much.
We're sad to see you go, but hopefully we'll have you back on from time to time. Get out the old podcasting equipment and come back on and tell us about sustainability in board games, which will obviously be huge in the next 5 years, probably.
Yeah, I honestly think it will.
Yeah,
yes,
I think so too.
Yeah,
I think it's becoming more of a concern, and more companies are turning towards it. Do you want to read us out for the last time?
Very well. Thank you very much for listening. If you've liked what you've listened to, then the best way to help us out is to share the podcast and drop us a review and rating on iTunes. You can also follow us on Discord. It's a complicated link. Just hit us up on one of our socials. Twitter, The Giant Brain. Instagram, Giant Brain UK. Facebook, The Giant Brain. Website, giantbrain.co.uk. And email all of your comments, queries, corrections, and complaints to the other Iain at giantbrainuk@gmail.com. Thanks for listening. Have a lovely time. Bye.
Bye-bye. Jamie is just saluting.
Jamie remains at full salute. Not a euphemism.